Once upon a time in Cuba, there was a boy named Jorge who loved playing soccer. He was really good at it too. During an important match between schools, Jorge scored the winning goal. But right after, something strange happened. Jorge suddenly couldn't breathe properly and collapsed. Everyone got worried and rushed him to the hospital. Outside the emergency room, Jorge's parents anxiously waited for news. When the doctor finally came, he had some alarming news. It turned out that Jorge had been struggling with a serious lung problem since he was a kid. The doctor even said Jorge might not live past 20. This news shocked Jorge's parents, but as the years went by, something unexpected happened. Despite what the doctor predicted, Jorge not only survived past 20 but also reached the age of 30. Although his lung condition hadn't improved, Jorge was still living his life as best as he could. One day, while traveling on a plane, Jorge met a kind and beautiful flight attendant named Leslie. Whenever the plane took off or landed, Jorge struggled to breathe. So he asked Leslie for help, and she kindly held his hand to comfort him. Grateful for her kindness, Jorge asked for her number, hoping to invite her to lunch someday as a thank you for her support. Leslie liked Jorge and gave him her phone number. When Jorge finished his work, he invited Leslie to lunch. They couldn't talk much because Leslie had to work, but even after their short meeting, Jorge started to love Leslie more. One day, they both found themselves staying at the same hotel in Hawaii. Jorge planned it as a surprise after learning about the hotel from Leslie's colleagues. They went for a walk on the beach and talked about their families. Leslie felt envious because she was the only child in her family. She wished for a big family and dreamed of getting married and having many children. At the bar, Jorge sang a romantic song for Leslie, expressing his love for her. Touched by his gesture, Leslie agreed to date Jorge. After months of dating, they decided to get married, but their happiness didn't last long. Jorge was declared infertile due to the side effects of the medication he had been taking for years. In this difficult time, Leslie tried to console Jorge, telling him that maybe they weren't meant to have many children. However, being part of Jorge's large and welcoming family made her realize the joy of having many loved ones around. Her words brought comfort to Jorge, knowing that despite their inability to have biological children, they could still experience the warmth and love of a big family. Together, they faced the challenges ahead, finding solace in each other's company and the support of their extended family. Years later, when the whole family gathered, Jorge's mom asked Leslie about her son's health. Leslie's face turned sad as she replied that Jorge's lung condition was worsening. The doctor had given a grim prognosis, stating that Jorge might not have much time left. Despite this, Jorge continued to grapple with his illness day by day. Meanwhile, there was another teenager named Chris who seemed to be enjoying his teenage years to the fullest. One day, while playing basketball, Chris played a prank on his friends by pretending to faint. His older brother John came to pick him up, although their relationship wasn't particularly close. During the ride home, John barely acknowledged Chris's attempts at conversation. Upon arriving home, Chris found a letter on the dining table. It was a rejection letter from the university he had applied to. Disheartened, Chris retreated to his room. His mother tried to console him by suggesting he apply to a university outside the city, where his brother Colin was studying. Following her advice, Chris applied and a month later began his studies there. It was his first day of college, and after class, as he was leaving the classroom, Chris accidentally collided with a girl named Sam. From the moment he laid eyes on her, Chris was smitten. He couldn't stop staring at Sam, completely captivated by her presence. In the afternoon, Chris told his brother Colin about meeting a beautiful girl in class, saying she was like an angel. Colin laughed and told Chris to enjoy college life and not focus on just one girl, because there are many beautiful and attractive girls on campus. Chris sighed at his brother's advice. The next day, Chris ran into Sam again, who was handing out flyers for her college project. Sam's project aimed to provide emergency rides for people in need, like those afraid to go to parties alone at night. Chris volunteered to help with Sam's project, even though he couldn't drive. That evening, while waiting for orders, Sam shared her playlist with Chris, revealing many wedding songs. She explained she was saving them, feeling embarrassed. Chris reassured her, saying it's normal for women to have their dream wedding concepts. During their conversation, they received an order to pick up 3 customers from different locations. As they rushed to pick them up, the customers requested to stop at a restaurant. While waiting, Sam confided in Chris that her project stemmed from her mother's accident caused by a driver who ran a red light. Since then, Sam wanted to prevent others from experiencing similar accidents. Chris was amazed by Sam's kindness and determination. He realized that the girl he admired was not only beautiful, but also compassionate. For a long time, Chris and Sam had been getting closer. They spent a lot of time together doing all sorts of things. Sam even taught Chris how to drive, which was a big deal for both of them. One day when Chris was home from college, his dad got really mad. He was upset because Chris wasn't doing well in his classes. Chris wanted to explain to his dad that he was in love with Sam, but his dad was too angry to listen. So Chris just said sorry and promised to do better next semester. A few weeks later, Sam took Chris to get his driver's license. But when Sam looked at Chris's paperwork, she saw something strange. Chris had agreed to donate all his organs if he died. Sam was surprised but didn't say anything. Before Chris went in for the test, he asked Sam if she would be his girlfriend if he passed. Sam was shocked but happy, and she said yes. Chris passed the test, and to celebrate, he took Sam on a picnic. They had a romantic evening under the stars and talked about their families. Chris planned to introduce Sam to his family the next day. He was excited to show off his beautiful girlfriend to his brothers. When Chris brought Sam home, his family welcomed her warmly. Chris was proud to show off his new driver's license too, but when he told his dad he loved him, his dad didn't say anything back. Then, one day, Chris collapsed while hanging out with Sam and his friends. At first they thought he was joking, but he wasn't. They rushed him to the hospital where the doctors said he had a severe brain hemorrhage. It was a rare condition, and there was only a small chance Chris would wake up. Everyone was shocked and scared. The next day, Chris was still unconscious. His friends and family were worried sick. They didn't know what to do. They hoped and prayed for Chris to wake up, but the doctors said it didn't look good. They had to prepare for the worst. Chris's loved ones stayed by his side, hoping for a miracle. But as the days passed, their hope began to fade. They were heartbroken, knowing that Chris might never wake up again. When Sam saw her boyfriend Chris lying helpless, she couldn't hold back her tears. She begged him to wake up, repeating his name over and over again. Just when despair was about to engulf her completely, a faint voice pierced through the silence. It was Chris calling her name. With trembling hope, Sam watched as Chris slowly opened his eyes. Relief washed over everyone present as Chris survived his critical ordeal. Despite his weakness, Chris managed to sit up and in a heartfelt gesture proposed to Sam in front of his entire family. It was a moment of pure joy amidst the recent turmoil. 1 month later, Chris and Sam exchanged vows, beginning their journey as husband and wife. As time passed, Chris's life seemed to regain its former glow, as if the dark clouds of the past had dissipated. Their happiness multiplied when Sam discovered she was pregnant with their first child. Chris, eager to embrace his role as a father, diligently accompanied Sam to her pregnancy exercises every day. However, while Chris and Sam's lives flourished, Jorge's health continued to decline. During a family vacation on a cruise ship, Jorge collapsed once again, prompting him and his wife Leslie to return home. After a thorough examination, the doctor delivered grim news. Without a lung donor, Jorge might not survive another month. Leslie, determined to stay strong for her husband, turned to prayer for solace. One night, Jorge surprised Leslie with an early birthday celebration, fearing he might not be there to celebrate with her next month. His gesture touched Leslie deeply, bringing tears to her eyes. Soon after, a glimmer of hope appeared when the doctor informed Leslie of a lung donor for Jorge. With renewed optimism, Leslie accompanied her husband to the hospital for the transplant procedure. Amidst these unfolding events, Chris received news of his acceptance as a firefighter, a dream he had cherished for a long time. Though overjoyed, Chris was suddenly overcome by a wave of silence, lost in thought until he eventually snapped back to reality. Chris realized that all the happiness he had felt before wasn't real. He never got to marry the woman he loved deeply. Sadly, the day Chris found out he had a cerebral hemorrhage was the last day he ever woke up. His father, heartbroken, couldn't stop crying. No matter how much he called out to Chris, no matter how much he showed his love, Chris remained silent. The mischievous boy's voice was forever lost. The next day, the doctor delivered devastating news to Chris's family. His brain had ceased to function, meaning there was no way to save him. However, according to Chris's driver's license, he had opted to donate his organs. 5 people would receive a second chance at life because of Chris's decision. As Chris's friends held a candlelit vigil outside the hospital, his father thanked them. Losing Chris was agonizing, but what hurt even more was realizing he hadn't expressed his love for Chris enough while he was alive. He urged everyone present to reach out to their loved ones and express their affection before it's too late. Meanwhile, in another hospital, Jorge woke up feeling grateful for the ability to breathe normally again. Leslie, his wife, informed him that he had received lungs from a generous donor. Although there was happiness in Jorge's recovery, there was also sadness. knowing that someone had passed away for him to live. Days later, Chris's family received a letter from Jorge expressing their gratitude. Jorge wanted to learn more about the person who saved his life. Touched by the letter, Chris's parents began corresponding with Jorge. Eventually, they decided to meet. During the meeting, Jorge thanked Chris's family once again and promised to cherish the gift of life he had received. Chris may have returned to the earth, but his selfless act had given others a chance to live on. In the end, Chris's legacy was one of kindness and generosity. His story reminds us to appreciate our loved ones while we still have the chance. Let's cherish each moment and express our love openly. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to our channel for more inspiring content like this.